I'm Martin Mueller. I'm a retired professor of English and classics at Northwestern University. The 7-minute thing doesn't appeal to professors, but I'll try my best. And here is my timer. And here we start. Much of what Peter Booth said is relevant to the project I'm engaged in. We are not annotating the web, but we're using the web to annotate or correct or otherwise enrich an underlying set of cultural heritage resources. The resources in this case is pretty much the entire print heritage of the English-speaking world from 1500 to 1700. There are roughly 130,000 imprints, and roughly 60,000 have been transcribed into TEI XML, which is, for all practical purposes, a deduplicated library of everything that was printed at the time and has come down to us. It's a kind of cultural genome. Some of it is extremely wonderful, whether it's Hobbes or Shakespeare. Some of it is plain old rubbish, but it is rubbish from an age long gone, and we learn a lot more sometimes about the past from its rubbish than from its most wonderful things. The texts were transcribed by people that we don't know much about using double keyboarding in the Philippines or wherever. The poor people who did this had in front of them digital scans of microfilms produced between the 30s and 80s of the last centuries of printed pages that weren't always so wonderful to begin with. So a lot of things could go wrong and a lot of things did go wrong. And scholars complain about the quality of those texts. And it is only the scholars or the users who can fix it, because it would be financially and organizationally impossible to do it any other way. So we, a group of people at Northwestern, Notre Dame, and Washington University in St. Louis, have been working on a project where we can tell scholars, stop bitching, fix it. And here are tools that we're giving you to fix it, and it will be relatively easy. And then this archive of early print between 1500 and 1700 can become the foundation of a book of English, which I call a very large, growing, public domain and collaboratively curated corpus of written English since its earliest modern form, with full bibliographical detail and light but consistent linguistic and structural annotation. And we've now come to the point where we have much of this, but we need the correction tools. And Peter referred to the fact that when you have cultural resources, you need to be able to target them at the most granular level, preferably through a canonical citation system, which doesn't exist for those books. But we have divided, using a kind of divide and conquer strategy, we've divided the 60,000 books into roughly 2 billion discrete word objects, each with an address of its own. And the address, in most cases, is the image number followed by a word counter on the page, which actually gives you something that is remarkably like the second most famous citation system in the world. The most famous citation system in the world is the chapter and verse of the Bible. The next famous are the Stephanus pages of Plato, like 393a or whatever. And the A, B, C, D, E refer to quintiles on the page marked by the marginal letters A, B, C, D, E. If you have a word counter, you can actually algorithmically create A, B, C, D, E's, or even lesser, more granular things. Divide and conquer. If you have 2 billion, normally editors edit things one text at a time, but we've edited it one error or defect at a time, thinking not of the book as the object, but as the corpus as the object. And we have engaged undergraduates as curators, and the basic idea here is that undergraduates who have some dream of a scholarly career, for them the best way to get into the business is to do some work in the trenches of editorial labor. The lower, the better. They're actually very, very good at it. And what we hope to create is to create an annotation tool that where a pedagogical input, that is an editorial assignment in class, can be a scholarly output. Greg Crane of Perseus, the Perseus Project, has done that for years. Students have for centuries parsed, second year Greek students have for centuries parsed Greek sentences. In Greg Crane's classes, they parse Greek sentences, then they go into a tree bank that can be corrected and becomes a... So, and we have, the undergraduates have done extraordinarily good work on a sample project where we had 500 non-Shakespearean plays that had a median error rate of 14 defects per 10,000 words. That got down to 1, and at the 75th percentile of more errors, the error rate dropped down from 62 to 3.5. Those are significant improvements that make texts more usable. The annotation module will be built by Wolfgang Meyer's team, the Exist developer. I think some of them are here today. And basically what we're trying to do is to let the machine do what the machine can do and let people do what only people can do. Some errors are hard to find and easy to fix. Other errors doesn't take much to find them, but it takes a long time to fix them. And so we're in the business of finding, fix it, log it, where the fixing is the human labor and much of the surrounding work is done by the machine. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Any questions for Martin? I'll hand you the mic so you can...
Well, I'm going to take this opportunity to praise TEI and Perseus because I think these are wonderful projects. TEI, I just looked it up, I've been familiar with for 30 years. It's actually been going since 1960. And I think in the idea of annotating the whole world's scholarship is a fantastic vision, and I just give credit to everybody who's been involved in doing it. The second thing I'd say is that the use of students in the process is really important. The younger you get people involved in the whole of this process, the better for everybody.
Yes. And they like it.
All right.
Especially if you pay them a little.